everybody's here? That's going to be here? Okay, this week we're going to start talking about Unit 8. Does everybody have a book? I think I uploaded it if you didn't, but that's the last time I'm doing that. And then, so we're going to, you should, according to my schedule, I know I agreed not to count things late, but your assignments from Unit 7, Assignment 5, and Unit 6, Assignment 4 should be turned in pretty soon if they're not already turned in. And then when I'm through talking, you need to make sure that you take the quizzes. Today is Unit 7 that's on the Canvas. There's also a Unit 5 quiz that I didn't put a due date on. I think some of you know, I don't think you have it, and Ariel doesn't have it. So y'all need to take that one as well. But anyway, right now, is there any questions on? I'm gonna show Amanda's Unit 7. Where's these units lined up? Can y'all see that? Let me turn this on. She's turned in Assignment 4 for Unit 6, right? Okay. I need to rename these things. This is the one where you had to do a column framing plan, a beam framing plan, and a column schedule. And this is pretty close to what it should be. It's all black and white. The only thing I think I commented to her on here is that the column lines should be phantom, and they should be a little bit lighter than the rest of them. She's got her column bases at 3 feet. She's drawn that, and she's drawn the columns. You need to draw the columns in the column framing plan because that's what it is. And you need to try to draw them to scale. Some of you have just drawn little X marks or something, and that's not proper for a column framing plan. She's dimensioned them right there, and she's labeled the bubbles. So that's what the column framing plan should look like in general. Then, let me see, the beam frame, or the column schedule, what she did next, she did hers more like the one in the book, but you can see that we really only have one column type, so you only have one. All the columns are listed right there. You have the height of your column listed. You've got the first floor, top of foundation, top of column height, top of steel height, and this line here, floor elevation, that's what that column, that means, and column center line designation is what that would be. And then if you had different types of columns, you would keep drawing them over to this way. So there's the column schedule. The other thing on that assignment was the beam framing plan. And here you have the beams, of course, and you have the columns drawn again. The only thing she's missing here that needs to be on this is the column lines. That needs to be on all the plans. That's how you, when you're moving from plan to plan in a set of drawings, you have the column lines on all plans, because that's how you can identify. You're calling somebody on the phone and say, I need you to look at column A1. If I was looking at this, I couldn't tell where column A1 was, so that's why you have the bubbles on there. So you just need to copy those over there on each plan. She listed all the beam types and the section marks. I might make the section marks a little bit heavier, but in general, that's what it should look like. And also, I would like for you to, some of you are handing in one at a time, and that's confusing because the grade, the way the Canvas grades it, it says it's there and needs to be graded, but then there's only one thing there. So I don't know whether I should grade that and count off for not having everything, or what. So it's better probably if you can wait and hand it in all at once. That way I don't slash you unnecessarily. If you hand them in later, the other parts of the drawings, just make, and I've already slashed you, then make a note, say, I've got the rest of it now, can you fix my grade, or something like that. So is there any questions on what you need to do? This is Assignment 4 for Unit 6, which is what we've worked on, what should have been due last Thursday, but what we were working on last week. Any questions?
On mine, you commented that something was gray. The one that some of the lines were gray.
Depends on the color that it was.
Well, you
I
need to,
did the thing like you said where I highlighted all the colors, so that
Okay.
I wouldn't mistakenly use a color and then I turned them all to black.
yeah,
So I don't understand why it came out.
maybe it was just because it was the way the PDF printed it.
Yeah, I think maybe when I did the PDF, I think I put grayscale. I think that would have changed it, but
Um,
I had already done that thing where you highlight all the
Yeah.
colors and turn them to black.
Well, gray's better than colors. So.
Yeah.
But
It cost me a lot of points just because the lines were gray, so I was like,
let me look at it
"Why
again.
didn't they come out gray?" So,
Call me when I'm done talking and I'll come back and look at it. Um, so, but I'm still getting some drawings on other assignments from people that have color on them. And you just can't do that because they're not gonna mass produce those in color. So we've gotta be able to distinguish it in black and white. And you gotta figure out how to do that in AutoCAD. So is there any other questions on that assignment? Okay, so you should then be working on the next one, which should be due it's due today, sometime this week, which is, the one on Unit 7, Assignment 5, which is where you had to draw the single and the double line plans. Are y'all working on that now? So, try to remember then to turn those in all at once. So I guess the next question is, has anybody finished that? Okay. Unit 8 is what I was going to start discussing. But I can hold off if that would confuse you. Or do you want me to go over Unit 8 and then y'all just keep working? Is that what you want me to do? Okay. So Unit 8, let me get this off of here. On Unit 8, hold on. Unit 8 talks about structural steel connection details. And you're going to be drawing some of those after you're through with Unit 7 assignment. Connection details in structural drafting are used to show exactly how all structural members are to be connected during the erection. They are very similar to sections, except they are much more detailed and they isolate the area in which the connection is located. So they're more like what the fabricator would probably draw for not at the engineer's office, but at the steel fabricator's office. They would draw these connection details and then send them back in shop drawings to the engineer to check and make sure it's all according to what he said. Nowadays things are bolted or welded. We rarely use riveting anymore. Most things are bolted or connected or welded, I mean. And the connection details that you need to be concerned with are connect column base plates to the foundation, where columns are spliced, and we're connecting beams to columns and beams to beams. So base plate connection details, if you have your book, you can see on page 103, it shows you what those would look like. You only need to show the part of the foundation that pertains to your detail, so they didn't show the whole thickness of the foundation. But you can see that there's concrete, and then there's some grout, and then they show the anchor bolts drawn to scale. Since you can't really see the anchor bolts, they're shown in a dashed line, which is what you need to do. On top of the grout, you have your base plate, and then you can see the angle that probably came welded onto the base plate or the column, one or the other. Then they attach it with the bolts into the ground. Well, the bolts will be put in the concrete when they pour the concrete, and then they slip that on there and tighten it down. So what you're looking at on figure 8.2 is a section, you can see the section mark above, where they're cutting right through the middle of the column and the base plate, and you can see then you've got an elevation or a section view below showing that, and you're going to be drawing things similar to that. And you can notice where you cut right through something at the base plate, it's drawn to scale, but it's hatched in solid. So for every in the shop drawings, for every different occasion, meaning if there's a different bolt size, a different column size, anything different, you have to draw a different detail, because they don't want to take any chances, that you'll miss a note saying, by the way, column B has it this way. So everything that is different, if there's anything different, you have to draw a different detail. If it's all the same, you can refer to the same detail. And usually, I think it says in here, they will say, to call out the various connection details, they will have letter designations such as A, B, and C. And you can see that further back in the chapter in our assignment, because you're going to draw details for A, B, and C, because then you can just say, if you look on page 111, there is a column and beam framing plan, and you notice on the top in column A1 at the top left, you have a little A by that. That means that it's going to use connection detail type A, and you can probably have more than one of those. See, there's more than one B, there's more than one F, etc. So that's how you save time by and that's how they would be designated. Let's see what else we need to talk about. Back on 102, you can see some connection details for typical beam to column, beam to beam. And if you look at framed connection, it's showing you both framed and seated connections. A framed connection, if you're looking at page 102, figure 8.1, a framed connection is where a beam goes into the web of a beam, like detail A, and it's also a seated connection because it's seated on that column. So that's a framed and a seated connection. Seated just means it's sitting on something. Framed means it goes into something and usually has an angle attaching it. You can see the angles on all of these, how they've called them out. Does everybody understand the difference between a framed and a seated connection? They got more details on the following pages, 106, 107. And those are all framed and seated connections for you to look at. Your assignment for this chapter, and it's already written in the Canvas when you get to it, but if you go to page 110, you're going to do number 4, 6, 9, and 12 on the reinforcement activities. And you can do more than one per page. You can do whatever will fit on the page. And it says, for number 4, at an appropriate scale, prepare a connection detail A, beam to beam. And you're going to use the information on page 111. So I already showed you where A is. It's column A1. That's going to be connection detail A. And you can get all the information you need from that drawing and the drawing on the following page. But then what that detail will look like is if you go back to page 109, figure 8.7, you can see a connection detail drawn there. So they have a plan view at the top showing the column and then whatever beam goes into it, a section through that, and then they got an elevation or a section view, looking at that from the side. So you'll need to draw it pretty much like that, an appropriate scale. You could probably fit at least two, maybe three. I'm not sure I think they need to be scaled, 3/4 of an inch equals 1 foot 0 inches or larger, so that you can see all the information. So don't go any smaller than that, and then whatever you can fit on your page, 2 or 3 of them, that would be fine. And you can stack them like that. You need to show the welding symbols if it calls for that. You know, if it's an important piece of information that's hidden behind something, you show it in a dashed line. I mean, you guys kind of know all that. It needs to be in black and white. Trying to see. Is there any questions on that? Or you might have some when you get to it. But so I'll make a, you know, y'all need to, like we have been doing, I'll make a quiz for this chapter. We'll probably take it on Thursday. So, any other questions right now? Or you just want to work? Everybody knows what to do. Well, you do quiz number 7 today for Unit 7, if you haven't already done it.